So I was reading an article on language learning because I've recently started to study Spanish a bit more deeply. I know it's not a very cool thing to do, but it's kind of half of my native language. And I want to get some cool results on a competition and do all the cool stuff that you can get from learning your native language to an actual good level. And I was reading this article saying, why do children, I don't remember who wrote it, but it was something like, why do children not learn languages well in school? Why don't they fare well with learning French, Spanish, Uzbek, whatever? Why don't they? And one of the reasons was because they saw language learning as studying a subject and not a skill. And yes, the guy who wrote the article said, oh, languages are very different from history, physics, math, geography, where you just absorb some facts. And languages need to be taught as if you are teaching a skill and the students are learning a skill. But I do think it is a lot more productive to see history, geography, anything that you learn in school or outside of school as a skill that you are acquiring. I need to learn the periodic table. That's a skill I'm acquiring. I'm I'm kind of making myself better at the skill of doing chemistry by learning the periodic table. Maybe you have other goals. You watching this YouTube video right now, you're honing your skill of absorbing information. I'm giving you a bit of information and you are absorbing it and you are developing that skill. You shouldn't see this as just absorbing bland facts, studying a subject. No, it should be seen as studying a very specific skill that you can use in your day to day life. What happens if you don't do this? What happens if you just study things like subjects and put these bland things in your brain? It might help you in conversation with nerds, but with actual people, it won't have any effect. You should, dead ass, look at your history assignment. Oh, who was the first king of England? Who did this in China in 500 BC? Who did this? Who did this? When did this happen? And actually get an actionable step out of it. Who was the first king of England? I don't know, but who was the first king of England? Oh, that guy. Me, knowing that it was that guy, what can I do with native English people? Using the information that I just got here, that guy is the first king, the founder, whatever. I don't know how England started. How could I do this? What could I do? Same thing if you're Indian. Who was your first president? And how could you use this to interact with your family? Maybe they know something more. Maybe they are interested in that. What do you know about Mahatma Gandhi? Just all of these bland pieces of information have so much value if you just pay a bit more attention to them. For example, you can do this with anything. You can do this with physics, chemistry, mathematics, because all the truth in the world is in math. That is something I have learned through rigorous goddamn training. Not rigorous, for fun training. But for example, now I'm reading the most iconic Spanish novel, which is Don Quixote de la Mancha, a goddamn beast of a book, 1,000 plus pages, plus complimentary volume that has 1,000 more pages of notes and criticisms of the work. This is the biggest book, the biggest historical book Spain has ever met. Maybe even that Europe has ever met. Of course, if you don't count Proust. But how can I read notes on Spanish history and apply it to my life? Well, the notes help a lot, but I'll give you an example. In the book, in Don Quixote de la Mancha, in the first chapter, it's about it's about a knight, a crazy, crazy knight. If you're not familiar with the iconic story, and he goes out for the first time, and he says something about the mythological character god of Apollo that is like the god of arts, whatever, and also kind of represents the sun. And the notes explain how he kind of going out for the first time is kind of a metaphor for like the sun going out in the morning, rising in the morning and illuminating the world. And he's doing kind of the same thing that the sun is doing. So how could you weaponize this in your day-to-day life? Walk out of your house into the world as if you were the sun illuminating it. One mental trick and you just come out like with a straight back, breathing fully, with one mental trick that you got from like a note from Quixote. It's really goddamn cool because you do not need to read nonfiction, whatever. All of these things are not the only things that can improve your life. Do you understand? Like language learning, history, all of that. If you read it as like a subject, study it as a subject with like bland information, then nothing is going to work, nothing is going to stick to your brain because that's not interesting. We remember the things that we do. Because I went outside my house thinking I'm the sun, not in an arrogant manner, but just thinking I'm the sun, I remember the things about Apollo representing the sun. He's the god of arts. Don Quixote talks about him. All of that I remembered because I did something. I attached an activity to that. 90% of the things that we do, we actually remember. So if you're going to study in a book, like a goddamn lazy man, I'm sorry, but you're lazy. Tim Ferriss literally talks about if you want to learn something, you should choose something that gets your nose outside of a textbook. That is holy criteria on learning something effective. So, as an actionable step, please take whatever you are studying that you think is completely useless. I don't know, Latin, chemistry. You can do this even with grammar. And find a way to implement it in your life. An action that you can do to remember it. Not necessarily to remember it, but that you can do and then remember it as a natural consequence. If you attach items, if you attach things of value, actions to the things that you do, then you remember 10 times more of the things that you do, you understand better, and you also just improve your life, which is a huge bonus that you can get out of studying very esoteric, very obscure things that don't help you to like mold your body, mold your brain. But if you do it right, how you do it is infinitely more important than what you do. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.